Welcome everyone to the first Blue Knot Speaker Series event of 2021. Woohoo! We are so happy you're here. We're so happy that we have Beth White speaking with us tonight. I'm about to introduce her formally. But before I do that, I want to put a link in the chat so you have time to sign up for it throughout the evening. We have a Slack workspace. And one of the things we use the workspace for is in the events channel. After the event, our presenter, in this case, Beth, who is so nice, we'll monitor it for a couple days afterwards. If there are questions you have from the presentation that you don't get to ask during the actual event. So I'm putting the link in the chat. Feel free to sign up. That link will stay there the whole time we're in here. And you can communicate with Beth afterward. Okay, here we go. Beth White has over 15 years experience as a human resources professional and 10 years of experience in sales and developing software technology with an emphasis on disrupting traditional business processes using technology. Beth saw an opportunity to digitally transform the employee experience by leveraging chatbots to act as intelligent assistants for HR, IT, and operations. Beth founded MeBeBot in 2018, and the MeBeBot solution automates answers to employees' frequently asked questions, elevating the roles of HR and IT, and driving organizational productivity and efficiencies. Employees have access to HR, IT, or ops anytime from anywhere via mobile or computer devices using MeBeBot's app in Slack, Teams, and web chat. Beth lives in Austin, Texas, and has a BA from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and an MBA from St. Edward's University, and she evangelizes and educates on using AI for driving the employee experience. Beth, take it away.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great introduction, and it's been fun to get to meet the group and get an idea of the background. And I'm impressed. We've such a great group of individuals, and being a tech town that Austin has become, and of course, apparently everybody's moving here, even more so for the technology. It's going to be great to get your feedback on chatbots. I'd love to learn more about everyone's exposure to them, and I love even more so ideas about how you think this technology could be applicable to other areas. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I have some slides here, to kind of get us rolling. But again, I don't want to bore the group. I mean, it is later in the evening, so just want to make sure we keep it fun and interactive. So my background, as she said, I've been in HR, I've been in technology companies here in Austin, but what I really found is like the world is changing. And when we think about AI, how many people think about these two movies by chance? Do these movies ring a bell with you at all? And I know different generations have other movies that have been, impactful on them, but a lot of times some of the movies actually got key elements somewhat right as to where we are. And anybody have a guess of how old Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey is as a movie? What year it was? Any guesses?
I think it was 1969.
Yeah,
I think it was 68 or 69. So
I was in high school then.
Yeah, but I really need to watch that movie again, because it was one of those movies that kind of put AI on the map and got everybody kind of thinking. I personally am of the generation where I love the war games, where playing the game of tic-tac-toe with the computer, and even more so, I'm a fan of Jeopardy, and just love how IBM's Watson played in the Jeopardy competitions, and those are all examples of AI. So I know some of you may know this, but this is a really really powerful slide that talks about, at what point in time will computers have the same power as a human brain? And what we're finding is that, as those of you who have been in the computing space for a long time, boy, I know for me, it was, the individual PC computer, and then there was a lot being done with grid computing and, cloud computing, and now we've got AI on top of it. And so what's happening is everything is exponentially changing and getting faster and faster, and it really is truly going to be an amazing world that we live in. this technology is powerful, and it takes responsibility to use it within care, you know, in the right hands. But I don't know if this resonates with anybody as far as your background and how much you've seen, you know, AI change and how much it may have the capacity to learn and gain knowledge like humans. So. But what is AI? I think a lot of times there's a lot of confusion of what is the topic of artificial intelligence, and when you know I put together these slides for a different presentation, truly started kind of breaking it down into some of the areas of AI that people might hear about, you know, everything from machine learning and natural language processing and chatbots. That's all a part of the MebeBot solution today, but there's a lot of work being done with pattern recognition. A lot of that has to do with, you know, facial recognition software, et cetera. Neural networks. We all know about autonomous systems, having Tesla moving to Austin and self-driving cars and things like that. And then there's the whole concept of deep learning, as, you know, how do you teach a computer to think, you know, and learn like a human being. So anybody working in some of these areas right now of AI? Want to share any stories? No? Okay. Yeah. And so, this slide, I apologize, a little blurry, but, you know, Satya Nadella from Microsoft, the CEO, you know, he 4 years ago has been really getting on this bandwagon. So Microsoft themselves, along with IBM, Google, Amazon, Apple, everyone, Facebook, I know got maybe a person out there from Facebook, big users of AI technologies, and really chatbots are broad and they can do many different things, but a lot of what chatbot technology does can actually fundamentally change the way that we are using computers and using technology today. And that's what I'm kind of here to share with you. So far so good. I can't see the chat channel, so if anybody's, you know, wanting to say something in particular, feel free to chime in verbally. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to try to pull up the chat and see if I can see it as well. Sometimes it's a little hard when I'm navigating the slides too. So, okay. Well, what I want to talk to you about today is a unique use case of chatbot technology, and that is really in the workplace. And through the introduction of myself today, you learn that I worked in HR. My career began in HR and expanded into enterprise software sales, and am working in a lot of different technology, from financial services technologies to retail technology. And what I saw happening is that I felt like we were in this perfect storm of a lot of things changing in the workplace. How many generations of people do we have in the workplace today? Any guesses out there? Well,
Probably four or five generations.
Yep. It's actually they're saying 5 generations of people are in the workforce today. And you think about that, and that's a huge span of time, and the way people use and technology, the way they learn, the way they communicate and interact. I mean, it's a lot for a company to kind of absorb. And with that comes a lot of changing expectations about what employees want out of their employer and what employers think they need to deliver to employees themselves. So that's becoming somewhat, you know, conflicting at times. And then of course you've got, I'm trying to move, this chat is in the way. Talent, you've got the war for talent. So that really kind of began a couple years ago when there became, frankly, a shortage, and there still is, of a lot of different types of people and their talents that they can bring to companies. And companies utilize this term called upskilling or even reskilling people, because everything's changing with inside organizations, and the people need to change as well. And so this is also a challenge with inside organization. And then of course today, you know, how productive are employees? How can we get you know, employees to be able to do their jobs in a way where they don't feel like they have a lot of friction and noise in getting their work done, perhaps because of administrative bureaucracies, et cetera. I know I've been part of companies that were rather large at times, and it was super cumbersome to like get to that point of getting something done because you had to, like the movie Office Space, you had the TPS report that had to be done and sent to 10 million people, and was a little bit frustrating. So a lot's changing in the dynamics of the workplace, and I'm just kind of setting it up to where things are at. And then this year was just crazy, right? A lot of people who work in the roles of HR and IT and operations with inside companies, I mean, this was really game changing for them. Overnight, they were asked to physically move people from these busy office spaces where everyone literally is sitting side by side to being able to have people work from home. And here we are today. And everyone is successful to do that. But frankly, it was this great impetus to getting people to understand that work can happen from multiple different types of places and locations. And we already have been living in this global world where people are, part of companies that have entities all over. And you may at times be, having team members in India or the UK or Germany, et cetera, or Israel. So that's not uncommon, but it's really been embraced now. And I'm very impressed at how well companies did in making that shift and transition to get people to being able to work from home. How many of you work at a company that it was the very first time that you were ever allowed to work from home? Kind of like a surprising thing. So yeah. But what companies have found is that, work and the workplace is incredibly inefficient, and there's a lot of ways that they could streamline operations to be a bit smoother and actually save money in making, different processes more productive. And I don't know if you've been part of companies where it takes forever to find a specific document on a SharePoint site or a company intranet because they're simply not organized well. So, that's really what's kind of happening is, you've got people that were in this world of just paper overload to now you have to support people who are all working all across the globe. And how do you create a workplace that is designed for more efficiencies? And when you think about it, what makes a company great, it's really their people. And when you think about technology companies, many of the ones that are relocating to Austin, I would guarantee you, having done payroll for years in the past, that probably 70% of their budget is spent on human capital, meaning their people. And when you think about it, if it was a factory, the factory would be optimized so that that widget was produced with the lowest cost, getting to the consumer as fast as possible. But yet, so many companies know so little about their people. They don't understand what makes them tick. They don't understand how to really drive retention and engagement. And how can we think about this solving, if your people are your biggest asset and you want to make them as productive as possible, how can you do that? On top of it, they're incredibly overwhelmed. There's just so much information overload happening out there. And so average employee is spending so much time still on email today. Most organizations are considered very complex. Employee onboarding, starting an employee at a new job, may take upwards to 60 to 90 days. And I can tell you that some of that time is spent just people trying to familiarize themselves with, what's the process for submitting an expense report, or how do I get, a new insurance card, et cetera. And so when you think about those kinds of challenges, we're always trying to figure out how to help the people, not be so overwhelmed. How can we simplify things? And as consumers, we have a lot of ways that we get that answer. I know a lot of this is what I actually have two kind of duplicate slides. So employees have questions, and, we all have our phones, and, do we have any Alexa or Siri users out there, or Google users, right? I mean, when you use those devices and you get used to them, it's very handy to be able to ask Siri or Alexa a quick question and get a quick answer. So how do we take kind of that consumer-like feel and bring it into the workplace? And the idea is how do you do that even a step further? How do you use those messaging type of tools, in systems that we already use with inside companies? And hey, this group is using Slack. And so that's really where MeBot kind of where we fit in. At times, I use this example of MeWeBot as I say, like the Alexa for the workplace, because that's what we are designed to do. We help employees get answers to their frequently asked questions. So I bet you all have asked HR a question recently or asked IT a question, and that's what MeWeBot is designed to do. Is we provide that instant gratification that employees want in getting a quick answer to a question. One of the things that we love to do is build a tool that really has the sophistication of leveraging this natural language processing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, but have it in a way that makes it really easy for companies to implement and get up and running so that people can take advantage of the solution as fast as possible. And I'm a believer that not all tech has to be complex to implement, and that there are ways to kind of simplify that process. Additionally, one of the things that I know many companies really strive toward is having more access to data. Everybody wants to know more about their people, processes, etc. So inside our solution, we actually provide a dashboard that shows real-time analytics. It shows usage of the product. Because we've gone through an exercise of training this library of content that I'll give you a peek into, we're able to get our customers launched quickly with 85% accuracies to answers. And what I mean there is, if you ever used Siri or Alexa, you might have experienced a lot of poor answers to questions. And over time, you may have learned how to ask Alexa or Siri a question using more context, and that helps. That helps Siri get to the right answer faster. But because we started with this, what we call kind of a library of content, how many of you have gone from job to job and kind of the same questions that you might have starting one new job, or the same questions you might have at another company? So we really kind of built the product around the idea that there's a lot of similarity in this kind of content. And if we can leverage it and allow our customers to just make edits or customize it, then they can get going faster and have that level of accuracy. Because again, certain things make their business unique, but in general, every employee needs help perhaps using the VPN service, or everyone might need help at one time finding a doctor. So those are some of the things that we kind of specialize in. And do we have users of Microsoft Teams out there by chance? Yeah, Microsoft really took off. Boy, they're happy campers right now, because they went from struggling to get adoption to Microsoft Teams. And for those of you who don't know what Microsoft Teams is, it is like Slack. Does everybody know what Slack is? It's a collaboration platform where you can have teams and you can chat with each other. It was kind of the basis of a older technology called IRQ. And so Microsoft actually tried to buy Slack. That was the story that I've heard. And Slack asked an astronomical price at the time, and Microsoft said, that's okay, we'll go do something on our own. And that's really how kind of Teams came about, from the lore I hear. So, but what happened was, during the pandemic, when many of these companies that were using Microsoft Office 365, which includes Outlook and SharePoint and even Excel Online, Word, etc., when they moved all these employees home, not everybody had an account to Zoom or had Slack. And so quickly companies shifted over to Teams, and Teams is very powerful, like Slack, where you can have collaboration environments. And there's industry experts in the HR field that consider the way to get employees to engage with technology is the expert I'm about to quote. His name is Josh Burson, and he worked with Deloitte for many years, is to put the tools in the flow of work. So where do people go to get their work done? And so today, many of the companies we talk to are highly leveraging Microsoft Teams and Slack as ways that employees are spending most of their time. Does that sound familiar to some of you out there that work in companies? Are you in those tools quite a bit these days? So All right, well, we'll get into the how MebeBot works. So thanks for indulging me and letting me do a few little setup slides here. So just not knowing how many people we had on the call, whether they were technical or not, we were just getting a feel. So, so employees, if they have these questions, what they can do is they can ask MebeBot a question in a tool like Microsoft Teams or Slack. And we actually have a web chat too that nicely fits with inside SharePoint pages, for example, which are what companies are using often to create their company intranets. And they often become, sometimes I call them the dumping grounds of documents that end up being very poorly organized and no one knows how to find anything. So, but we want to be where employees are asking the question. So that's where kind of MebeBot works. And then what we did that's really unique and different is we started with this premise of, let's give companies these questions and let's provide them the suggested answers that they might want to give to an employee, because every company really has an employee handbook and everybody might have that employee handbook saved somewhere. And so we just give them the verbiage so that all they have to do is add the link to the employee handbook and they're ready to go with the question and answer for employee handbook. So nobody wants to start with a blank page, and we don't like them to have to start that way either. So at times I call us also the bot in a box, because if you've ever built a website, I don't know if anybody's out there built a website from scratch. When I say from scratch, that means like writing the HTML text from day one. Most people would never consider doing that again. They would probably use WordPress or Wix or Webflow or something like that to start a website. And so our solution is a lot like that for enterprise businesses that want to get a chatbot up and running that services the needs of the employee questions. We've essentially given them a starter kit, I like to call it. And inside that customer portal that our customers have people within HR and IT and operations, they may not be technical users at all, and yet they can go in and at any time update answers to questions so that employees can get real-time information and answers when they need it as things change. COVID's a prime example of several of our customers were opening up offices in China at a short period of time while they were still closing offices in South and Central America. So there was this discrepancy of geographic locations and who needed to get what message. And so MebeBot helps out a lot with that by being able to quickly change content and target it at different geographic regions. So, but inside our dashboard, we provide the real-time analytics. So that's one of the beauties of AI, is that AI allows you to capture interactions and the real-time data, and then serve up this data for the customer, I call them business users, to be able to see what's kind of happening. So I'll pause there and see if we have any questions. And I hope I'm not boring you guys too much. And this was on the track of what you were hoping to learn here today. So far, so good. Okay.
I had a question on the chat. I
Okay.
assume it takes some effort to customize this platform to different customers. Each one has different policies and what have you. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll actually show you how it works, because that gives you even a better view of it. And so that's kind of, what I wanted to do is just, I'll give you, let's just jump into a live demo. That's more fun. So, so this is how the MebeBot looks inside Teams. So I don't know if this is familiar to you all. If you're not a Teams user, I'll show you how it looks in Slack as well. But, if I'm an employee and I have a question like, for example, how do I use the VPN? Mom, that's virtual private network, just so you know, because I don't know if you've ever used one. A lot of people have to use it in the workplace these days. So, but what we do is we serve up an answer, and we have a generic kind of verbiage behind it. But you can see here, we have a hyperlink that would go to another page that you might have inside a company intranet, or a wiki, and it could give more explanation, but we want to give that quick answer to an employee when they need it, give them a little bit of information if they want to contact IT, etc. So the interactions happening with inside Microsoft Teams like this, this is the employee experience. And then with inside Slack, our application looks like this. So if I know you guys use Slack for the JCC, we are an application that is embedded right here. You can have things like HubSpot or Trello or other things. We're an application. So that install, to your question, Ari, it takes under 30 minutes to get the chatbot interfaced with a company's Teams or Slack instance. So that part's really quick and easy. That allows the employee to get access to MebeBot. And again, you can ask questions like, how do I, enroll in
The answers are different for each company, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
How do I
absolutely.
get the VPN?
Yeah,
One company will tell you
absolutely.
call so-and-so. Another company will tell you, I don't know what to do.
For sure, for sure. So this is an answer that, say, company A, we'll call it MebeBot's company. This is what we're giving to our employees, as far as their answer. But how does that answer get in here? That's what you
Exactly.
want to know. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
your
Well, how long does it
desire
take?
is yes,
Normally,
yeah.
is it 2 months
So
effort or
what?
6 months effort?
Yep. Oh, no. We were able to get, one of our customers is Epicore Software, and they have 4,400 employees that are located in 30 different countries across the globe. And we started the project with them in January, and we had them live in March. So,
Wow.
and that was, under 2 months, and we can do it even faster than that. But frankly, this thing called a pandemic happened right in the big end of the project.
No,
So
2
it put a
months
little bit
for
of a wrinkle.
4,000 people company is very, very nice.
Yep, and E2 Open is also one of our customers, and they have 2,500 employees in 10 different countries, and we were able to get them up and running in under 1 month. So every company is a little different, but this is the dashboard that I was mentioning to you in our product. So what a lot of people who were tasked to run reports love is that you don't have to do anything. When you log into, so who uses this piece of it? Ari, you were asking this question about like, how do you drive the answers to the questions to fit the business? It's through this portal. So we would give access to this portal to people who are in the HR team that want the credentials, IT, operations, other parts of the business that want to have questions and answers in MebeBot. And so they usually at each company, it's maybe 15, 20 people. So they would have the ability to log into MebeBot, and the first thing they could see is they can actually see, how many questions are being asked by day, based on unique users, total number of questions. If we wanted to look at a weekly view, we can just toggle over to a weekly view and see on January 8th, 12 questions were asked. But what's more fun, which I really like, is I was in HR for years, and I would never know what kinds of questions people really had, especially if you're asking and answering them one-off. One HR business partner is answering questions, the other's answering, and nobody's coordinating. I can go in here and actually see, wow, there were 6 people asking questions about their medical insurance card. A handful of people were asking about the vision plan. And this is all within the category of benefits. So we have a lot of different content in our product, from benefits to general questions, IT questions, payroll, etc. And so this is how we are able to visually see the different types of questions being asked. And then what's really nice is for our customers that have people all across the globe, they can actually track how many people in other countries are actually asking questions and needing help from HR. But to make the answers to the questions fit, what really happens is we have this concept of the global questions and answers, and these are placeholders. And say we have general questions and answers, like every single company we work with may have, they have a company name, they may have business hours they want to share, they may have a link to the employee directory. So we call this placeholders because this is how we super fast help companies get up and running. We say, give us the attributes about your company that are really unique and that are different from company A to company B. And so they fill out this section here, And then what's really wonderful is those placeholders flow into our answers. And as you can see, we have lots of different categories of questions and answers. But if I were to go to the general category, I can see I have a sample answer already out here for the question that an employee might ask. They may say, how do I book travel? Do I have to go through a travel agent? How do I make a travel reservation? There's hundreds of different ways that an employee may be asking about travel. And so one of the things MebeBot has done is we've ingested a lot of that data, and we've trained the bot to learn that when people ask and they put the sentence structure in a certain way, that we need to deliver this answer to them. If they ask anything about booking travel, this is the answer that they get. And to your point, how does each company make it unique? They get a sample answer out of the box. We call it a default answer, but then they can go in here and they can actually edit the answer at any time based on their business needs. So currently, travel is per manager approval only, and no international travel. If that was my policy at my company, I might just update it right here, and then I can hit save. And now that answer is what the employees will see. And that's how easy it is to get the information customized to each individual customer's business needs. Many of these things are similar from company to company. It's just, they just fill in the things that make them kind of unique. What are their different values is a great, what are the company values? Every company has values, and we have a placeholder where they just list the values and then they populate into the answer here.
Yeah.
Does
By
that
the way,
help?
do you partner with any major HR like ADP or somebody, one of those?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do not partner with them yet, but we've had lots of conversations with ADP and Workday and Ultimate Software, SAP, all the companies that are out there doing a lot of the systems that support businesses from payroll to HR records, because we do have a great opportunity to do some integrations with those folks, so that if people wanted to integrate and we would identify them personally, we could pull and push information back and forth between those systems. So that's a good question.
We also have a couple of questions in the chat
Oh,
too.
okay. All right. Sorry. Let me toggle over to that. All right. Thank you for alerting me. All right. Let me get up here. Oh, I love somebody who said I loved War Games. Yay, that was a good movie. So, and I woke up your Alexa. I love that. Okay, I have not read all these funny ones, you guys. So thank you. These are good ones. So is there a feedback loop for MebeBot's responses to improve and optimize, these experiences? And absolutely, yes. So, so we have within the product, one of the things that we do is we have human eyes that actually are looking at answers to questions that may have gone unanswered. Like, for example, somebody may have asked a question that we just don't know. The company may have introduced a new benefit or perk, and it hasn't been introduced as a new question or answer. If we see that come through because it's kind of an exception error, we will go back to the company and we will say, hey, somebody asked about this. Is this a new question or answer you might want in the product? We're also working toward, and we should have the feature done this quarter, to have the ability for the actual employee to give kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down feedback on the individual answer, to make sure that the answer is complete, it's what the employee wants to hear, and it's helping them out. So we're going to have a feedback loop inside the bot itself, but today we provide also human, what we call supervised machine learning, so that we can make sure that we continue to train the bot to understand the different ways people might ask questions inside businesses. And how many of you work at these companies where you need a dictionary for the acronyms, right? Yeah. So those are some of the ones that we see a lot are the acronyms for, all the different ways people have named something in their business. So, and does the bot use keyword tags, or is it an NLP component? It's actually natural language processing, and I have a slide that I'll show you, but that's really kind of our secret sauce behind the scenes, is I've got a really smart CTO named John Carney, and he's actually designed a data model that's leveraging natural language processing. And we use, our whole solution is cloud hosted in Microsoft Azure. And we're using Lewis, which is Microsoft's version of Watson. So it's their natural language processing engine, but we've had to train it quite a bit to understand all the ways that employees ask questions within inside companies. So, we are not just simply, it's not a tagging system. It's not a dialogue bot flow. It's actually using the language of employees and how they present information. The other thing that is that good for questions for right now? Anybody else? Okay. So the other thing that we do that is unique and somewhat challenging, I myself, started in HR for many years, and many people may not be aware if you haven't, worked in other countries. But for example, the employees in India, they have a lot of needs for different types of questions and answers that are just particular to India. And some of that might be around categories like, we could look at payroll questions like how are people paid in India? They may be only paid, twice a month versus, every other week. And so what MebeBot allows us to, the customer to do is go into this section and actually take and answer questions uniquely based on what country someone lives in. So if I'm in India, I'm going to get the answer that is about how direct deposit works for me in India. So we do this by allowing the employee to, today they actually select the country that they live in, and they're delivered the information based on the knowledge base that they are tied to. However, we have the capabilities to integrate to companies' active directories. If some of you know what that is, that's, usually IT sets those up and can put in parameters about where someone lives, and what role they have with inside the company. And once we can do that, we can do a lot more robust activities to, serve up content based on even someone's role within the company. One of our customers requested, like a manager toolbox. People are only as good as the manager who's coaching them along. And a lot of managers have a lot of questions that are really unique. And so we're working toward getting that as a functionality as well. But to add a new kind of custom answer and question to a particular country, it's as easy as just adding in, what we call a little question answer pack. So if there's a whole fun way that they're doing volunteer activities in India, for example, they could click on that. And now volunteering, that whole concept of volunteering has a default answer, and I could enable this question answer. And then as a manager over the content that's delivered to India employees, I can actually, customize what I want the employees to receive. So another fun thing we do is, I think these things are fun, but I'm kind of a geek. When I was in HR, we always went through annual enrollment of benefits, and it was such a stressful time because all these benefits changed on January 1. And how do you get all those benefit information, live on January 1? Well, what we did is we created a way that you can schedule new answers to be delivered to employees based on a particular date. So if I want to go in here and I say, we're changing vendors, we're going from Blue Cross Blue Shield to United Healthcare, and now insurance cards are going to get sent out in the mail, but they can also get it from a phone app. I want to let everybody know that on January 1, when we have this new insurance, if they haven't gotten that card in the mail, we can set it up so that, a new question, we're past January 1, but a new question can be delivered to an employee at a specific date and time. So the HR team just loved this feature. They're like, oh, you saved me so much time of having to work over the holidays to get these questions updated. So we don't want anybody to have to do that. So any other questions about, how we set up a solution and how it works in the MebeBot world? And I can tell you about how some other folks have built bots too, if that's of interest to you all.
There was one more question in the chat that just came through.
Okay. All right, let me toggle back to that.
I can ask it verbally.
Okay, go ahead.
just to-
Okay.
You mentioned a few of the things that y'all are talking about for the roadmap of features. Are y'all at general availability with the product, or is it in beta from where you want to be with the product?
Yeah, we're in full deployment. It's
Okay.
where we want it to be. We're just, I say we're adding bells and whistles, you know, we're adding
Okay.
more and more functionality. And what we love is that our customers have become innovation partners. They're coming up with all these great ideas all the time. You know, a lot of the way our dashboard looks is, you know, feedback from Epicore. They're like, we'd love to see the dashboard look like when you go on Google and you look at your stock and you have a stock in a company and it looks like that. And we're like, okay, we can do that. So, so we're enhancing it, but the product's in, you know, full deployment, used in 30 countries or more, you know, by thousands of employees across the globe. So,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Because Ross, you're at Indeed, right?
I am. We
Yep.
do a lot with chatbots.
Well, I know I was talking to you guys a year ago and trying to get your business. And so maybe we can continue the conversation. So,
I'm happy to help any way I can.
all right, that would be great. I know you guys bought, I think you went down some paths, and at the time you hadn't even had Slack rolled out to everybody. And so I was kind of waiting on that to happen. But, you know, I would love to talk to you all more because I have total respect for Indeed and have exchanged emails with Ronnie, your former CEO, or, you know, who's part of, I think, the JCC too. So, but this is how, you know, MebeBot can look with inside of a company's intranet. You know, we can be this little chat bot over here so that we can be on pages where people are looking up information. I showed you the live demo, and then, you know, really where we're headed, you know, to your question, Ross, like what's next? You know, we want to work with our customers to kind of get to this point. And, you know, Ari, you asked, are you partnering with any of those big providers? We, we're really letting our customers kind of drive that process of getting integrations. Essentially, it's a lot of, you know, it's API integration work, but John Carney, our CTO, he and I worked together at several companies in the retail tech space, and integrations into systems was what he did day in, day out. So we're very confident that that's something that we would love to tackle and work with a customer who wants to go down that path with us. So can serve up a lot of fun information and do a lot more cool stuff. So this was for people who were, you know, I know there was a question about like, are we using natural language processing? And this was the best example of like how natural language processing works that I could gather for, you know, I've done trainings for HR people to educate them on how these work. And this is kind of a slide that kind of shows you that, you know, when someone's asking a question about like, you know, how do I contact my HR rep, you know, what's really happening on the system side. And so Lewis is the same engine we use to help with the dissecting of a sentence. And I'd like to think of it as like the English class from junior high, where you're breaking down parts of speech, etc. But it's taking a sentence structure and it's really kind of comparing it to what they call intents, which are these kind of question answer pairs that we have programmed in the back end of the system. And it's looking through the system, and this is all happening in just a millisecond, and it's really producing what they call like a confidence score. And that's how the bot knows what answer to return. So it's going through this process super, super fast, but this is what's kind of happening in the machine side. And so we've trained the machine, but we still do apply, and every company should, the human supervised learning so that it continues to get better over time. But I hope that kind of gave you a little feel for how this kind of works. I know I showed this slide at a HR event, and they saw that code and they just like went like, I'm out, you know. And I said, no, it's not, you know, let me explain what's happening. It's okay, you know. So, and then here's how, you know, a lot of what is happening behind the scenes works too, is you've got these chatbot interfaces from Slack to, gosh, you know, do we have the Facebook person on the phone? I don't know, because Facebook has an enterprise version, you know, that's becoming popular. And so yeah, and Google Chat, another one, even Zoom. We just recently did a little integration to Zoom because people are using that. So that's how employees are like getting to MebeBot. And the great thing is it's on mobile. And then we've got the NLP layer, and we store a lot of that content that you see in our knowledge base. It's cloud hosted by MebeBot, and so there's a lot of interactions that are happening behind the scenes that, frankly, our customers don't really know all of the nuances, and they don't really need to they don't want to, and they don't need to if they just want to use a tool to get the job done. And that's what we provide. So, and again, this is kind of what made us really think through how we do what we do. Is we thought, gosh, so many of these types of questions and answers are really similar from company to company. So can we build a productized solution that can really be applied to a lot of different companies, and then just work real hard to train this data model and provide this NLP scoring, and then return these answers quickly. And to my point about some other ways that companies have approached creating chatbots is at times they may have ingested documentation. They may have ingested a company handbook or a benefits summary guide or even an FAQ, and they want to use it as the basis of a chatbot. And the reason that may be problematic is we've got, Josh, our attorney friend, on the phone, and you bring up the idea of ingesting an employee handbook to an HR person, and the first thing they'll say is, "No, don't do that. We haven't updated it in the last year. It's out of date. Don't use that." Because some companies only update that once a year. A lot of the ways that employee handbooks may be used is legalese, and so the language isn't designed to be kind of conversational, and so not only do they have to ingest documents that might not be in great shape, but they're not written in a way that brings this kind of friendly conversation. And you have to go through and train all that content to really understand all the different ways employees can ask questions. And so by starting with this pre-built kind of concept of the content, we've done the hard part of the training so that people can just start beginning to use the knowledge base and get to work. And that's really what everyone wants to do. And they can still personalize it. It still can really fit their business. But, I think there's a lot of different ways that, I'll pause there. Any other questions come in or any other thoughts?
More in the chat.
Okay, more in the chat. All right, sorry.
Want me to read them to you? Is that?
Oh, no, that's all right. I'm over to it now. So let's see. Future roadmap. Okay, let's see. Do you have any ways to get? Ways to get employees to be involved in the Q&A? So
yeah, sometimes the policy says one thing, but let me tell you, there is another way around it or whatever.
Yep. And I think that was kind of like to the point of like the feedback loop that we're launching, that one feature, so that employees can get involved by giving us, their feedback. Was this a good answer or not? But because we apply, the human learning on it, at times we can actually see, hey, that's where, employees are essentially getting involved because we're getting the exception errors, and then we bring those forward to the business, and then the business can actually look at it and see if that's something that they want to kind of introduce into the product. So we surface it in a kind of a different way than we've considered, getting a feedback field, just asking people to, what questions would you like to see in MebeBot? So that's an opportunity that we could have, and it's easy enough to turn on something like that. But I think a lot of the ways we're sharing that information back to the business in this weekly process we go through, I think they find that very helpful, and that's helping with that part of it.
My question was a little different. Sometimes you read the policy, but you ask your friend in the next cubicle, okay,
like
do that, I don't understand it, or is there a way around it, or all kinds of real life experience that is not written, documented in a policy.
Ah, yes. Yeah. I think there are, what we're moving toward, and I'll probably allude to it here in a minute, is more what we're calling conversational flows. So there's some hot topics out there that are complex, like you're describing. One of the ones that I think of is leave of absences, when people need to take time away from work. And that's one of those things that there's always a policy written about leave of absences, an employee handbook. But what's really challenging is there's medical leave, there's personal leave, there's Family Medical Leave Act, there's, there's a lot of flavors of it. So, how do you make sure that you're delivering the type of answer that an employee wants based on their particular situation? And so what we're doing to get into that and dig into it more is we're taking some of those more common areas of maybe confusion, or where people need more insights and information, and we're creating conversational workflows around that. So, if you were to ask a question about leave of absences, we would then say, what kind of leave of absence do you want to take? So that we can help kind of guide the user to get to the detail of that policy that hopefully does help answer their question.
I had one, say, a supervisor at Motorola, that his definition of vacation versus leave of absence, he said, if you don't enjoy it, it's a leave of absence. If you enjoy it, it's a vacation.
Oh, there you go. That's one way to look at it. And that is truly a hot area. People, it's confusing. And right now, boy, it's even more complex with, frankly, COVID. If people get sick with COVID, how are they handling all this? It's a crazy time out there. So does MebeBot support daisy chain questions, or is it primary questions and answers? I was sort of alluding to that, Ross, with the ability to go into conversational flows. So we're building out some conversational flows. We surface what we call related topics today. So we are daisy chaining on things that are similar. Like if you ask MebeBot, like, how do I enroll in the 401k? We'll also serve up answers about how do you, select your investment options? How do you do a rollover? How do you do a loan? So we do that support today on that kind of daisy chaining effect. And one of the other areas we're working on is triggering messages to create perhaps a support ticket. If the IT has a help desk, and a lot of HR teams don't, but some do. And if they want more MebeBot to handle what we call tier 1 or even tier 0 level support, we can trigger a ticket to be created in another system like a ServiceNow or a Jira. So that's one of the requests that we've had from some of our customers. So
With that conversational flow, is it possible to alert another room or a individual person outside of the integration, so to speak?
So if somebody inside the business is not a portal user of the customer portal of MebeBot, is there a way that they would be alerted if certain things were being asked? That's a good question. We can do that. John, our CTO, says anything's possible with time and money, but we would have to take a look at what are those question answer pairs, and then who would we want to trigger to get notified if something like that need to happen. So everything's possible, Ross. It's not in the product today, but that's a good one. I've not heard that one yet. So
it's very
yeah.
cool. I don't want to take away from that. This is neat.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, escalation is an interesting area because, some companies are prepared and able to handle escalated tickets or issues, and some are not. I mean, a lot of the companies we talk to are, a couple thousand employees, globally, and they just have a very lean team, and they don't have anywhere for it to go. That's why they're purchasing MebeBot. They want to have this be that solution, but we can always surface, an email address and an answer. For example, if somebody asks a question, very common in things like, purchase orders. We have a question and answer about purchase orders because that's hard at any company, and there may be one person at the company that's the guru on the purchase orders, and you can put their email in it. They'll probably that's where it would go anyway, and they're the ones that are likely to make that answer really good, so that it hopefully alleviates some of the flow that normally is going to them of those questions and answers. So, but good questions. We have a good group here. Mom, are you glazed over now? I know this is like way more techie than I thought it would be for this time of day. So, whoop. I think she's on mute. So we'll give an example of one of our customers.
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to ask a question I had asked in the chat here.
Oh.
What about adaptability to other uses completely different from HR and IT?
Oh, okay.
How long would it take to train it, to give it documents, to, et cetera?
Got it. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed your question, Daniel. So we have the ability to ingest what we call custom or customer-driven questions and answers. And it takes, training of the machine learning. It just depends on the complexity of the content, but we're talking to, frankly, a number of our customers about some content in professional services team, for example, some very specific nuances. I know the legal department and accounting and finance have questions, and they often are really about a certain company's business that doesn't really translate well to other businesses. So we would take what they need, and it can take anywhere from an hour or two to get that question up and running, depending on, again, we have to go in and we think through the different ways people can ask that question, and we train the data model, but we're getting faster and better at it with our behind the scenes kind of technology. So I would say it depends, but it can be anywhere from an hour or two to a week or two, but not a lengthy amount of time.
Okay.
And we're excited when companies have more content that they want to utilize, because our vision is to be the one-stop bot for all employee questions and answers. And we started with, what we considered were the really commonly asked ones, and now it's growing. So we like that. So Epicore, I don't know if you all know who Epicore is. They're an ERP software company here in Austin, well, headquartered in Austin, but they are totally global. And, they're the ones that were launching MeBot right in the middle of the pandemic. And they've really, kind of embraced the solution and have always been thinking of different ways to utilize it. And frankly, submitted us, I didn't even know, to winning an innovation award with them this year. So that was really fun to get that kind of attention. And we just love having customers that really want to look at this as a shared kind of project and going on it as far as growing out the functionality. I mentioned also E2Open. They're also an Austin company, headquartered here, but people all over the globe. And Vlad, their IT VP, he was supportive of using the solution for HR, and then he's really the impetus of us getting going on the IT knowledge base almost 2 years ago, because he's like, hey, if you're answering these questions for HR, why can't we get some of these questions that are coming into the IT queue answered by MeBot? And I said, well, we can, let's do it. So he was really a big instrumental part of us getting going on the IT content as well. So, and now he says MeBot answers the equivalent of about 2 of his IT help desk people, in a given month. So, and they're about 2,400 employees. So, value and investment on MeBot. Where did I have that slide? I think I put it right here. We have our return on investment is always a hard thing. Oh, I know we're at the end of our time, but what we look at is, how many employees does a company have? How many people in the company spend time answering these routine, frequently asked questions? And if you're even able to save one person 1 hour of their time, what is that, opportunity cost for the business, both in what that person could have been doing. And then in addition, what was the disruption, in them stopping their work? and so on. So, we find that that's a huge time savings. And then employees spend a lot of time just looking for information they can't get answers to. So there's a lot of areas where we really help companies not only save money, but, win time back into their day. And then this is the last slide, I promise, because I see we're at time, but just where we're headed as a company. This is complex technologies, and getting started. We really want people to get comfortable with our solution and get it. I call it the crawl, walk, run. Just try it, get going, and then we can kind of take on this journey together. And we started with just like you were asking Ross, just a question and answer, and now we're building out more of these conversational flows. And Ari, you were asking good questions about integrations to other systems, and so all of this is part of where we're headed. And kind of down here in the end, the whole employee sentiment analysis and learning about people and what they're interested in, that's all going to get produced by the data. We're able to capture data and the interactions people have with MeeBot, so that, soon, ideally, here's where I'd love it to go is, if I'm an employee and I'm looking for information about becoming a manager, I say, how do I get a promotion here? What kind of promotion do you want? I want to become a manager. Well, how about trying Manager 101 training? Serves up a link from the learning management tool to a training on an online course. I take that class, and then perhaps in a week or two later, MeeBot asks me, hey, would you like to take Manager 102 training? You took Manager 101 training. So I kind of call it the Netflix approach, to suggesting things to people based on what they might be interested in, the information they're looking up, etc. But that's, part of our whole vision of where we're taking things and where we're going. So, but I know we've probably taken way too much of your time. So thank you all for staying with us, on this call. And any other kind of questions, I'll turn it over to get to the chat window here and see two new ones. All right. I think the last one is about saving. Can you put chatbot development into enterprise dollars save context? If companies try to build these types of solutions themselves, is that what you're getting at? Or just in that ROI slide, was your question before or after I showed the return on investment slide?
It was before the ROI slide, but I am curious for the companies that think that they can build this on their own. I would love a little more deeper dive into what you were offering there.
Yeah, no, I have a slide in another deck that's all about the build versus buy decision. And, it's at a point where we've talked to people a year ago and they've tried to go off and build this, and then they realize it's complex, and to have somebody dedicated to just supporting it is costly, not to mention, paying for the tools and keeping abreast with all the changes that are happening. So, it really depends on the size of the organization, but it's easily one or two people's full-time job to kind of keep a solution like this up and running at a company that has a couple thousand people. It's just not cost advantageous. Plus, you're missing out on being part of this journey that all the other customers we have are on, where they're helping build out more functionality in a product with a lens from HR and IT. And so you're getting the benefit of the collective whole versus having a very niche solution that just fits your business. So there's a lot of trade-offs, in trying to do this yourselves, but most of it comes around anything that you have to keep up with and maintain, requires somebody to dedicate their time to keep, Microsoft's moving fast, Slack changes all the time. You've got to keep all those tools running and humming nicely. So, and then since there isn't direct feedback mechanism yet in the chatbot, have you done surveys with employees to gauge their satisfaction? So we have, we've done surveys with inside, the key stakeholders in some of our businesses that give feedback, and, we take it as it comes, and we know at times, we need, everybody starts using this and then think of other functionality that they want to know. Why can we do this? Can we do that? So a lot of what we get feedback on is just more features, more functions. A lot of the feedback we get is thank you for saving time in my day. I don't get those questions anymore, and employees really like it because, 24/7 support, you're anywhere in the world and you don't want to wait till US business hours to maybe get a question answered. So we've had, again, I think most of the feedback, that may be perceived as, negative or, constructive is around just, can we grow out more features, once they start using it. And okay, I guess that's it. We're at time, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And thanks, Mom. Now you know what I do. So
Thank you, Beth.
He's probably thinking, is this why I pay for your college?
exactly. So so this is why I'm really busy right now. So it's a lot to keep up with.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time and speaking to our group. Thank you for doing this. Thank you to all of you for coming. I put the link again to our Slack workspace in the chat. So if you have additional questions, you think of things after this for the next couple of days, Beth has kindly offered to respond there. And please be on the lookout as we keep planning speaker series events.
Yeah, thanks so much. And feel free, we're Austin business, we're emerging. We love customer referrals and we're raising funding too. So if you know anybody interested in investing in awesome tech, we're a great bet, so put that little plug in.
Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.